And now I am reminded of the legend of the 7 sleepers. In the Mount of Pion, yonder, is the Cave of the 7 Sleepers. Once upon a time, about 1,500 years ago, 7 young men lived near each other in Ephesus, who belonged to the despised sect of the Christians. It came to pass that the good King Maximilianus— I am telling this story for nice little boys and girls— it came to pass, I say, that the good King Maximilianus fell to persecuting the Christians, and as time rolled on, he made it very warm for them. So the 7 young men said one to the other, "Let us get up and travel." And they got up and traveled. They tarried not to bid their fathers and mothers good-bye, or any friend they knew. They only took certain moneys which their parents had, and garments that belonged unto their friends, whereby they might remember them when far away. And they took also the dog, Ketmer, which was the property of their neighbor Malchus, because the beast did run his head into a noose which one of the young men was carrying carelessly, and they had not time to release him. And they also took certain chickens that seemed lonely in the neighboring coops, and likewise some bottles of curious liquors that stood near the grocer's window. And then they departed from the city. By and by they came to a marvelous cave in the hill of Pion, and entered into it, and feasted. And presently they hurried on again, but they forgot the bottles of curious liquors, and left them behind. They traveled in many lands, and had many strange adventures. They were virtuous young men, and lost no opportunity that fell in their way to make their livelihood. Their motto was in these words, namely, "Procrastination is the thief of time." And so, whenever they did come upon a man who was alone, they said, "Behold, this person hath the wherewithal, let us go through him." And they went through him. At the end of 5 years they had waxed tired of travel and adventure, and longed to revisit their old home again, and hear the voices and see the faces that were dear unto their youth. Therefore they went through such parties as fell in their way where they sojourned at that time, and journeyed back toward Ephesus again. For the good King Maximilianus was become converted unto the new faith, and the Christians rejoiced because they were no longer persecuted. One day, as the sun went down, they came to the cave in the Mount of Pion, and they said, each to his fellow, "Let us sleep here, and go and feast and make merry with our friends when morning cometh." And each of the 7 lifted up his voice, and said, "It is a whiz." So they went in, and lo, where they had put them, there lay the bottles of strange liquors. And they judged that age had not impaired their excellence, wherein the wanderers were right, and the heads of the same were level. So each of the young men drank 6 bottles, and behold, they felt very tired then, and lay down and slept soundly. When they awoke, one of them, Johannes, surnamed Smithianus, said, "We are naked." And it was so. Their raiment was all gone, and the money they had gotten from a stranger whom they had proceeded through as they approached the city was lying upon the ground, corroded and rusted and defaced. Likewise the dog Ketmer was gone, and nothing save the brass that was upon his collar remained. They wondered much at these things, but they took the money, and they wrapped about their bodies some leaves, and came up to the top of the hill. Then they were perplexed. The wonderful temple of Diana was gone. Many grand edifices that they had never seen before stood in the city. Men in strange garbs moved about the streets, and everything was changed. Johannes said, "It hardly seems like Ephesus." Yet Here is the great gymnasium. Here is the mighty theater, wherein I have seen 70,000 men assembled. Here is the agora. There is the font where the sainted John the Baptist immersed the converts. Yonder is the prison of good St. Paul, where we all did used to go and touch the ancient chains that bound him and be cured of our distempers. I see the tomb of the disciple Luke, and afar off is the church wherein repose the ashes of the holy John, where the Christians of Ephesus go twice a year to gather the dust from the tomb, which is able to make bodies whole again that are corrupted by disease, and cleanse the soul from sin. But see how the wharves encroach upon the sea, and what multitudes of ships are anchored in the bay. See also how the city hath stretched abroad, far over the valley behind Pion, and even unto the walls of Iasa look. And lo, all the hills are white with palaces, and ribbed with colonnades of marble. How mighty is Ephesus become! And wondering at what their eyes had seen, they went down into the city, and purchased garments, and clothed themselves. And when they would have passed on, the merchant bit the coins which they had given him with his teeth, and turned them about, and looked curiously upon them, and cast them upon his counter, and listened if they rang. And then he said, These be bogus. And they said, Depart thou to Hades, and went their way. When they were come to their houses, they recognized them, albeit they seemed old and mean. And they rejoiced and were glad. They ran to the doors and knocked, and strangers opened and looked inquiringly upon them. And they said with great excitement, while their hearts beat high, and the color in their faces came and went, Where is my father? Where is my mother? Where are Dionysius, and Serapion, and Pericles, and Decius? And the strangers that opened said, We know not these. The 7 said, How you know them not? How long have ye dwelt here, and whither are they gone that dwelt here before ye? And the strangers said, Ye play upon us with a jest, young men. We and our fathers have sojourned under these roofs these 6 generations. The names ye utter rot upon the tombs, and they that bore them have run their brief race, have laughed and sung, have borne the sorrows and the weariness that were allotted them, and are at rest. For 90 years the summers have come and gone, and the autumn leaves have fallen, since the roses faded out of their cheeks, and they laid them down to sleep with the dead. Then the 7 young men turned them away from their homes, and the strangers shut the doors upon them. The wanderers marveled greatly, and looked into the faces of all they met, as hoping to find one that they knew. But all were strange, and passed them by, and spake no friendly word. They were sore distressed and sad. Presently they spake unto a citizen, and said, Who is king in Ephesus? And the citizen answered and said, Whence come ye, that ye know not that great Laertius reigns in Ephesus? They looked one at the other, greatly perplexed, and presently asked again, Where, then, is the good King Maximilianus? The citizen moved him apart, as one who is afraid, and said, Verily, these men be mad, and dream dreams. Else would they know that the king whereof they speak is dead above 200 years agone. Then the scales fell from the eyes of the 7, and one said, Alas, that we drank of the curious liquors! They have made us weary, and in dreamless sleep these 2 long centuries have we lain. Our homes are desolate, our friends are dead. Behold, the jig is up. Let us die. And that same day went they forth, and laid them down, and died. And in that selfsame day likewise the 7 up did cease in Ephesus, for that the 7 that were up were down again, and departed, and dead withal. And the names that be upon their tombs, even unto this time, are Johannes Smithianus, Trumps, Gift, High, and Low, Jack, and the Game. And with the sleepers lie also the bottles where were once the curious liquors, and upon them is writ in ancient letters such words as these, names of heathen gods of olden time, perchance: rum punch, gin sling, eggnog. Such is the story of the 7 sleepers, with slight variations. And I know it is true because I have seen the cave myself. Really, so firm a faith had the ancients in this legend that as late as 800 or 900 years ago, learned travelers held it in superstitious fear. 2 of them record that they ventured into it, but ran quickly out again, not daring to tarry lest they should fall asleep and outlive their great-grandchildren a century or so. Even at this day the ignorant denizens of the neighboring country prefer not to sleep in it.